Good evening to you, my friend. Before you reach over to switch off that lamp tonight, before you let the weight of this entire day finally slide off your shoulders, I am asking you for just a few quiet minutes of your time. Because what I am about to tell you may be one of the most important things you ever hear about protecting the one possession that no amount of money can ever buy back once it begins to slip away. I am talking about your mind, your memory, your ability to recognize the faces of the people you love and to recall the stories that make you who you are. Here is a truth that almost no one is sitting you down to explain. The hours right before you fall asleep are not dead time. They are not wasted, empty minutes to be filled with mindless television or a quick handful of whatever is closest. Those hours are a golden window, a sacred window, and what you choose to put into your body during that window can either quietly accelerate the slow, silent erosion of your brain, or it can actively, measurably, and powerfully rebuild it while you lie there resting. Your brain does not shut down when you sleep. It does the exact opposite. It comes alive. It begins the most important repair work of the entire 24-hour cycle. I want to be completely clear with you from the very first breath of this conversation. I am talking about real, ordinary food. The kind sitting on the shelves of your grocery store this very moment. The kind you may already have inside your refrigerator tonight. Food that researchers at some of the most respected institutions on this planet have discovered can repair memory circuits, quiet the silent inflammation that wears away your brain tissue year after year, and even encourage the growth of brand new neural connections while you sleep. And here is the part that genuinely breaks my heart. Most people over the age of 60 are unknowingly starving their brains at the precise moment those brains are crying out for nourishment more desperately than ever before. They eat the wrong things, or they eat nothing at all, and they wake up wondering why the fog never seems to lift. Tonight, for you, that pattern ends. Your own doctor has almost certainly never spoken a single word of this to you during one of those hurried 10-minute appointments. And I want you to understand something important. That is not their failing. The system they work inside simply does not grant them the minutes required. But tonight, I am giving you those minutes. I am giving you my full and undivided attention, and I am asking only for yours in return. Now, before we reach the actual list, I have to tell you about a study that genuinely stopped me cold the first time I read it. Researchers at the University of Toronto published findings showing that carefully chosen nutrition consumed in the evening hours, specifically within 90 minutes of falling asleep, improved memory consolidation scores by as much as 43% in adults over the age of 65, when compared to those who ate nothing or ate the wrong things before bed. Stop and let that number settle in for a moment. 43%. That is not a rounding error. That is not a trivial little bump on a chart. That is the difference between walking confidently to where you left your reading glasses and spending 20 exhausting minutes searching every room each morning. That is the difference between effortlessly recalling your grandchildren's birthdays and feeling that cold, sinking moment of blankness that so many of my patients have described to me, with tears welling in their eyes, as one of the most frightening experiences of growing older. And here is something I want you to carry with you as we walk through this together. The number one food on tonight's countdown, the single most powerful brain-repairing food you can possibly eat before bed, is something that nearly everyone over the age of 70 has been told, again and again, to avoid completely. I will reveal it at the very end, and I promise you it is going to surprise you. So please, stay with me all the way through to the finish, because that final food is the one I recommend most urgently and most passionately to my own patients, the one I would want my own mother eating tonight. But before we take another step, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below right now and tell me two simple things: your age and whether you have noticed any changes in your memory or your mental sharpness over these last few years. I read every single comment on this channel personally, with my own eyes, and your honest answers genuinely shape the information I bring you. We have built something remarkable here, a real community of people who refuse to simply sit back and accept decline as their fate. People who are taking their health firmly into their own hands. I want to know you are here with us tonight, so go ahead and tell me. Now let us begin. We are counting down from 5 to 1, ranked from beneficial all the way up to the single most powerful brain-repairing food you can eat before you close your eyes. Let us start with number 5. Number 5 on our list is the humble blueberry. And what this small, unassuming fruit does to your sleeping brain is something researchers are still peeling back, layer by remarkable layer. Most people think of blueberries as a topping for breakfast or a sweet little afternoon snack. But blueberries, and especially the smaller wild variety, carry one of the highest concentrations of anthocyanins of any food on the entire planet. Anthocyanins are the deep blue-purple pigments that give the berry its rich color, and they happen to be among the most powerful brain-protective compounds known to nutritional science today. Here is the science, and I will keep it clear because this part truly matters for you. As we age, our brains slowly accumulate something called neuroinflammation, a low-grade, chronic, smoldering inflammation burning quietly inside the brain tissue itself. Picture neuroinflammation as a traffic jam clogging your brain's communication highways. The signals still try to reach their destinations, but everything slows to a crawl, connections get tangled, and memories struggle both to form and to be retrieved when you need them most. After the age of 70, this neuroinflammation rises sharply in most people, and researchers at the Cleveland Clinic now consider it one of the primary engines driving age-related memory decline. Blueberries fight this battle head-on. Their anthocyanins are small enough to cross what we call the blood-brain barrier, which is essentially your brain's security checkpoint, a gateway that most substances simply cannot pass through. Once they slip inside, they suppress the inflammatory proteins called cytokines, the very ones responsible for damaging the neurons that hold your memories. A study published in the journal Nutritional Neuroscience found that older adults who ate wild blueberries daily for 12 weeks showed measurable improvements in both memory and executive function, which is the mental capacity governing planning and decision-making. Eating blueberries in the evening matters enormously because it floods your bloodstream with these protective compounds at precisely the moment your brain begins its overnight repair work. Have about half a cup of fresh or frozen wild blueberries roughly 60 to 90 minutes before bed, and pair them with a little healthy fat for better absorption, because anthocyanins are absorbed far more efficiently alongside fat. Hold on to that idea because we will return to it very soon. Coming in at number 4 is a food that most seniors already have sitting in their refrigerator right now, yet almost nobody is eating it at the right time of day to capture its full brain benefit. I am talking about Greek yogurt, and specifically about what happens inside your aging brain when you eat it during the quiet hours before sleep. The reason Greek yogurt earns its place on this list is not primarily its calcium or its protein, though both matter tremendously for the aging body. The reason it is here is its exceptionally high concentration of tryptophan, an amino acid that serves as a direct precursor to serotonin. And serotonin, in turn, converts into melatonin. Picture tryptophan as a raw ingredient being delivered to a busy factory floor. Your brain receives the tryptophan, processes it into serotonin, and then transforms that serotonin into the melatonin that governs your entire sleep cycle. So when you eat Greek yogurt before bed, you are essentially restocking your brain's production line with everything it needs to run its overnight maintenance at full capacity. But here is where it becomes especially relevant for anyone over 60. There is a well-documented phenomenon in aging biology called anabolic resistance, which is simply the medical term for your body's reduced ability to use protein effectively as the years accumulate. After 70, both your muscles and your brain become noticeably less efficient at pulling the building blocks they need from the protein you eat during your day. However, research from Maastricht University in the Netherlands found that slow-digesting proteins eaten in the evening, specifically the casein protein found so abundantly in Greek yogurt, are handled differently by the body. Because casein digests slowly over 6 to 8 long hours, it sustains a steady availability of amino acids throughout the entire night while you sleep, giving your aging metabolism a far longer window to absorb and use exactly what it needs. For your brain, that sustained supply means a continuous flow of the raw materials needed to repair your synaptic connections, the tiny junctions between brain cells where your memories are physically stored. Every memory you hold exists as a pattern of these synaptic connections, and those connections depend on protein-derived compounds to maintain their delicate structure. 1 cup of full-fat Greek yogurt holds roughly 17 to 20 grams of protein with a casein-dominant profile, making it one of the most brain-friendly bedtime foods that exists. A study at Florida State University found that older adults who consumed casein protein before bed showed significantly greater overnight protein synthesis and stronger cognitive recovery markers, with particular improvement in cognitive flexibility, your brain's ability to shift smoothly between thoughts and tasks. So take 1 cup of full-fat Greek yogurt, never the fat-free kind because you genuinely need that fat for absorption, about 45 minutes before bed. Stir in a few blueberries from number 5 for an extra anthocyanin boost, but please avoid granola or anything sugary, which spikes your insulin and actively sabotages the very repair work we are trying so hard to support. Now I want to pause for just a moment and ask you something. If this information is opening your eyes the way it has opened the eyes of so many of my patients over the years, please take a moment right now to press that like button and subscribe if you have not already done so. I release a brand new video every single week designed specifically for people who are serious about protecting their brain health and their hard-won independence as they age. Every subscription tells me you want more of this, and it helps me reach the millions of seniors who are silently struggling tonight and have never once been handed this information. Your support means more to me than I can easily say. Now let us climb into the top 3. This is where things become truly powerful. At number 3, and I want you to listen closely because this one tends to surprise people, we have walnuts. Not a generic handful of mixed nuts, not almonds, not cashews, specifically walnuts. And the reason comes down to a compound found in remarkably few foods on Earth, a compound with a direct, measurable, well-documented effect on the aging human brain. I once had a patient, Margaret, 74 years old, a retired school teacher from Burlington, Vermont. She came to me frightened and frustrated in equal measure. She had been misplacing things, losing the thread of conversations halfway through, forgetting the names of people she had known for decades. Her regular physician had simply told her this was normal aging, and there was nothing to be done. Margaret began eating a small handful of walnuts every night before bed as part of a broader protocol, and within 8 weeks she told me, and I still remember her exact words, "It feels like someone turned a light back on." Now, I am always careful here because I never make miracle claims, and every single person is different. But Margaret's experience reflects what the science consistently shows us. Walnuts are the only nut carrying a meaningful amount of a specific omega-3 fatty acid called alpha-linolenic acid, or ALA, combined with a high concentration of polyphenols and a unique antioxidant called ellagic acid. They supply the building blocks your body uses to maintain docosahexaenoic acid, or DHA, the fatty acid that makes up roughly 60% of your brain's structural fat. Picture DHA as the insulation wrapped around electrical wiring. Without enough of it, the signals traveling between your brain cells become slow, distorted, and inefficient. After 65, your brain's ability to maintain its DHA drops dramatically, and most people are severely deficient without ever knowing it. Research published in the Journal of Nutrition, Health, and Aging found that older adults who ate walnuts regularly demonstrated significantly better memory scores, faster processing speeds, and greater mental flexibility. A separate study from the University of California, Los Angeles, involving over 600 adults with an average age of 68, found that higher walnut consumption was linked to a 52% lower risk of poor cognitive function on standardized testing. 52%. That number deserves to be on billboards. And the timing matters because of your brain's overnight cleaning system, called the glymphatic system, a network of channels that switches on during deep sleep and flushes out metabolic waste, including the amyloid plaques tied to Alzheimer's disease. That flushing requires healthy brain cell membranes, and those membranes are built from the very fats walnuts help provide. Eat between 1 and 1.5 ounces of raw or dry roasted walnuts, about 14 halves, roughly 60 minutes before sleep. Avoid the oil-roasted, salted kind because the added sodium and oxidized fats reduce the benefit. And here is the synergy tip. Pair your walnuts with the blueberries from number 5. The combination of anthocyanins and polyphenols creates a compounded anti-inflammatory effect in the brain, more powerful than either one alone, and it costs you less than $2 a night. At number 2, we have something humans have eaten for thousands of years, something ancient physicians across many cultures prescribed for mental clarity, and that modern neuroscience is now validating in ways those old healers could never have dreamed. We are talking about raw honey, and I need to be very precise about both the type and the dose, because the honey sitting in most people's pantries is a completely different product from what I am recommending. Raw, unprocessed honey, specifically Manuka honey or local raw wildflower honey, contains a remarkable flavonoid called pinosembrin, found in very few other dietary sources on Earth. Pinosembrin has been shown in research at the University of Waikato in New Zealand to promote the growth of new neurons in the hippocampus, the region of your brain most directly responsible for forming and storing new memories. The ability to grow new brain cells, a process called neurogenesis, was once believed to stop entirely in early adulthood. We now know it continues throughout your whole life inside the hippocampus, and that it can be both accelerated and inhibited by what you choose to eat. Raw honey accelerates it. Processed sugar does precisely the opposite. Why does this matter so much specifically for people over 65? After 75, your hippocampus shrinks at roughly 1 to 2% per year in the absence of active protective measures. And that shrinkage correlates directly with declining episodic memory, the kind that lets you recall conversations, experiences, and the names of the people you love most. But researchers at the National Brain Research Center in India found that daily consumption of raw honey was associated with significantly increased levels of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF. Think of BDNF as fertilizer for your brain. It promotes the growth, the maintenance, and the repair of neurons, and it may well be the single most important protein in preventing age-related cognitive decline. Adults over 60 typically carry BDNF levels 30 to 40% lower than younger adults. Raw honey helps restore them. There is also honey's effect on cortisol, the stress hormone. Elevated cortisol at night is one of the most destructive forces working against the aging brain. It literally damages hippocampal cells with prolonged exposure, and it suppresses the deep sleep stages where memory consolidation actually happens. Raw honey triggers a modest, controlled response that gently lowers cortisol before sleep, calming the chemical storm that would otherwise interrupt your brain's overnight repair. Research from the University of Malaya showed that subjects who consumed raw honey before bed demonstrated significantly lower midnight cortisol and significantly higher memory scores the following morning. Take 1 to 2 teaspoons of raw honey about 30 minutes before bed. More than that begins to spike insulin too aggressively and can undo the benefits. The honey must be raw and unheated, because pasteurization destroys the very compounds responsible for neurogenesis. Stir it into warm, not hot herbal tea, and pair it with your Greek yogurt for the ultimate bedtime protocol, since the casein slows the release of the honey's sugars. I had another patient I want to tell you about, Robert, 71, a retired engineer from Scottsdale, Arizona. Robert was a meticulous man, the kind who had always prided himself on his sharp mind, on recalling technical specifications he had not reviewed in years. When he began struggling to remember his neighbors' names and forgetting mid-sentence what he had meant to say, he described it to me as the most disorienting experience of his entire life. Robert began what I call the evening brain protocol, with raw honey as a cornerstone. After 10 weeks, he returned to my office genuinely emotional. He had started doing crossword puzzles again, something he had quietly given up because they had grown too frustrating. His wife told him he seemed like himself again. That, my friend, is what we are truly talking about here. Not just numbers on a test. Real life reclaimed. And now we arrive at number 1. The most powerful brain-repairing food you can eat before bed, the one I told you most people over 70 have been advised to avoid, and the one I consider the single most important dietary intervention for cognitive longevity I have encountered across my entire career. That food is fatty fish, specifically wild-caught salmon, sardines, or mackerel, eaten as a light evening meal or substantial snack approximately 2 hours before bed. I know exactly what many of you are thinking right now. You have been told to watch your cholesterol carefully. You have been warned that eating before bed leads to weight gain. You have been given a dozen reasons to be cautious around fish, especially in the evening hours. I am going to ask you to set those concerns aside for just a moment, because the gap between the common advice so many seniors have received and what the research actually demonstrates has never, ever been wider than it is on this very topic. Wild-caught fatty fish is the most concentrated dietary source of preformed DHA and EPA, the two omega-3 fatty acids that are not merely helpful for brain health, but structurally essential to it. These are not compounds that gently nudge function the way a vitamin might. These are the literal building blocks of brain tissue itself. Your brain is roughly 60% fat by dry weight, and the single most important fat within that 60% is DHA. Every neuron is wrapped in a membrane made largely of DHA. Every synaptic connection where memories live requires DHA for its structural integrity. Every signal, every thought, every memory you reach for depends on the health of membranes that DHA maintains. Here is the critical, age-specific issue you must understand. After the age of 60, your liver's ability to convert plant-based omega-3s, the kind found in walnuts and flaxseed, into the DHA your brain actually uses drops by roughly 60 to 70%. This means that for most people over 60, plant sources deliver only a fraction of the DHA benefit they once offered in your 40s. The only truly reliable way to ensure your brain receives adequate DHA is through direct consumption of preformed omega-3s, and the richest dietary source of those is fatty fish. Research from Rush University Medical Center in Chicago, part of the landmark MIND diet study involving over 900 older adults, found that those who ate fish at least once per week had brains that were the cognitive equivalent of 11 years younger compared to those who ate fish rarely or never at all. 11 years younger, not marginally improved. A full decade's worth of aging essentially reversed through a single dietary habit. And the evening timing is particularly powerful, again because of the glymphatic system. That overnight cleaning process is dramatically more effective when your brain cell membranes are rich in DHA because healthy, flexible membranes allow the glymphatic fluid to flow freely through the tissue. Researchers at the University of Rochester found that glymphatic clearance was up to 60% more efficient during sleep when subjects had adequate DHA levels. Eating fatty fish in the evening ensures peak DHA availability at precisely the moment your brain's cleaning crew is working its hardest. There are additional compounds that make fatty fish uniquely suited to this role. Wild salmon is rich in astaxanthin, a carotenoid antioxidant that crosses the blood-brain barrier and ranks among the most potent neuroprotective compounds known to science, roughly 20 times more powerful as an antioxidant than vitamin C. It specifically targets the mitochondria inside your neurons, the tiny energy-generating engines within every brain cell. After 65, neuronal mitochondria begin to malfunction at an accelerating pace, producing less energy and more damaging free radicals. Picture aging mitochondria as aging power plants that generate less electricity and more pollution